Strange though all these things may seem, they are by no means impossible. A man can live without eating if God so wills. For how did Elijah complete a journey of 40 days with the strength received from a single meal? 1 Kings chapter 19 verse 8. And how did Moses remain on the mountain in communion with God for 80 days without tasting human food? After 40 days he came down and, enraged by the image of the calf which the Israelites had made, immediately he broke the tablets of stone engraved with the law, and went back up the mountain, remaining there for another 40 days. And only then, after receiving 2 further tablets of stone, did he go down again to the people. Exodus chapter 24, verse 12 through 18, chapter 31, verses 18 through 34, and chapter 35. How can the human mind explain this miracle? How did his bodily nature survive without anything to replenish its daily loss of strength? This enigma is solved by the divine Logos when he says, "Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of God." Matthew chapter 4, verse 4. Why then do we drag the monastic way of life down from heaven to earth, burying ourselves in material anxieties? Why do we who once were brought up in scarlet now embrace dunghills, as Jeremiah says in his Lamentations, Lamentations chapter 4, verse 5? For when we are refreshed with radiant and fiery thoughts, we are brought up in scarlet. But when we leave this state and involve ourselves in material things, we embrace dunghills. Why do we abandon hope in God and rely on the strength of our own arm, ascribing the gifts of God's providence to the work of our hands? Job considered that his greatest sin was to raise his hand to his mouth and kiss it. Job chapter 31, verse 27. But we feel no qualms in doing this. For many people are accustomed to kiss their hands, saying that it is their hands which bring them prosperity. The law refers to such people symbolically when it says, "Whatever goes upon its paws is unclean," and "Whatever goes upon all fours or has many feet is always unclean." Leviticus chapter 11, verse 27 and 42. Now the phrase "goes upon its paws" indicates someone who relies on his own hands and places all his hope in them, while to go on all fours is to trust the sensory things and continually to seduce one's intellect into worrying about them. And to have many feet signifies clinging to material objects. This is why the author of Proverbs, speaking figuratively, does not wish the perfect man to have even 2 feet, but only one, and this one seldom involving him in material things. For he says, "Seldom set your foot within your friend's house, lest he grow weary of you, and so hate you." Proverbs chapter 25, verse 17. "You are my friends," says the Savior to his disciples, John chapter 15, verse 14. And if we try not to worry our friends about our bodily needs, then we should only seldom trouble Christ about such matters. For if we keep worrying our friends, they will come to hate us. What will our fate be, and how shall we escape condemnation, if we are constantly occupied with these bodily needs, and never stand upright or straighten our legs so as to raise ourselves from the ground? For our two legs together carry the whole mass of the body, and by crouching a little we are able to spring upwards, and in the same way our faculty of discrimination, after stooping to attend to the needs of the body, can once more look upwards unimpeded, separating itself from all worldly thoughts. Standing upright, then, is characteristic of men who do not constantly indulge their lower impulses. It is also characteristic of the angelic powers, because they have no need of physical things and feel no longing for them. That is what Ezekiel meant when he said, "Their legs were straight, and their feet were winged." Ezekiel chapter 1, verse 7. This signifies the unbending steadfastness of their outlook, and the swiftness of their movement towards spiritual things. Men, on the other hand, have been given legs that bend. In this way they can descend sometimes to fulfill the needs of the body, and at other times ascend to fulfill those of the soul. Because of the soul's kinship with the heavenly powers, we should for the most part dwell with them on high. As regards the body, we should turn our attention to material things only insofar as some necessity forces us to do so. But always to be creeping on the ground in search of pleasure is defiling and degrading for someone with experience of spiritual knowledge. Strictly speaking, we should call someone unclean, not because he goes on all fours, but only if he does so continually. For God allows those who are in a body to attend from time to time to their bodily needs. Thus Jonathan, when fighting Nahash the Ammonite, gained the victory over him by moving on all fours. 1 Samuel chapter 14, verse 13. But he did this solely because he had to. When fighting the snake that creeps on its belly, for this is what the name Nahash means, he was forced for a short time to do the same by going on all fours, and then standing up again in the usual way, he easily defeated his opponent.